Hello and welcome to another Wolftime gaming video. Continuing with Star Wars Legion, today we're going to be painting up this Commando Droid for the Separatist forces. Absolutely fantastic model. I really like these. They're a bit of a pain to put together. I will warn you now if you go and pick these up. Almost as bad as the B1s, but I think he looks absolutely fantastic. Pretty much screen accurate as well. I can't knock it at all. They are very small and fiddly, but I've got an idea of a really quick and simple paint scheme for these guys in a very similar way to we did the B1s as well. Before we get started on that though, as usual, let's get that kettle on. As usual, the first step, once you've got him built, of course, is to actually get him base coated. Now, I've actually used the Games Workshop grey cere to base coat this again, the spray. As with all the other Star Wars videos that we've done, or most of them have been grey cere anyway, it's an absolutely fantastic base coat. It goes on really easily, and it's very thin, so it drops into those recesses nicely. So actually onto painting the Mini itself, the first colour we're going to use is the Games Workshop Contrast Paint Basilicum Grey. Now this is an absolutely fantastic paint. It's a really nice sort of mid to dark level grey, I would say, and it's perfect for the actual armour colour of these guys. As you'll see as we're putting it on, when you're initially putting it on there, something I noticed, I was a little bit worried because it looked very dark, but don't worry about that. It does pull away really nicely, and it doesn't look like your Black Templars or anything like that. It really gives this nice grey feel rather than that sort of dark grey black sort of a feel. It works really well with this model. As you can see, he's completely painted with that grey and he's nice and dry now. One of the downsides of using the contrast paint over the whole body though is you cover everything, and I wanted the eyes of the actual miniatures to stand out really nicely, so I've got a little bit of white scar paint, just a little bit of white paint there. Any white will do really, even a light grey would work with this. Just a dot into the recesses of the eyes there. One of the good things about if you go over this at all with using this white paint is you can just literally just wipe it off because you're in the recesses, and what it'll do is wipe it off the surface, giving you still that grey feel if you do mess up a little bit on that. Now, some of the detailing around the model, you'll notice if you look at any of the on-screen images of these guys, is they've got this sort of a browny, coppery sort of a look on parts of the armour. Now, I've got an old brown paint called Mornfang Brown that I thought might work for this, and I put it straight on there, and honestly, it matches it almost perfectly. It's a fantastic paint to use, and it's an old one I just had kicking around as well, which is really good because I don't actually have to spend any more money on anything either. Now, as you go around the model, you'll notice there are all these sort of bulbous areas just on their arms. There's some of the joints of that painted that colour as well. My advice is just Google, Commando Droid, and these guys will pop up. You'll get lots of images, and you'll be able to see what I mean, and it's almost a perfect match there. And I think, as you can see now, I've just shown you the model itself. I think he's looking really good already. And to be honest with you, you could leave him like this. You don't really need to do anything else at all. However, I wanted the weapon he's holding, and he's got his binoculars there. I wanted them to stand out a little bit more. So I grabbed my Black Templar, contrast Black Templar, and went straight over the top of the grey that I'd done over the weapon, over his sword on the back, and also his binoculars as well. Because I do want these to stand out from the rest of him. I don't want him, to be all that one colour, because I think you lose a lot of the detail by doing that. Though you can get away with it quite easily, you don't really need to. Now, one of the downsides is using the black straight over the greys. You don't get that pop of the edges as well, but that doesn't really matter with this, I don't think, because we're going to go with a bit of a silver paint now to really make that stand out a little bit more. Now the sword itself, I've painted silver straight over the top of the grey, and because I wanted this to shine quite nicely. However, over the weapon and the binoculars, just done a little bit of dry brushing just to pick out the edges on those weapons to make them stand out a little bit more, as I was just saying. Now, if I'd used this straight over the top of the grey sear base spray, obviously these edges would be a lighter colour anyway, and I could have left it like that. However, I wanted them to have that silver sort of a feel, which I think works quite well just by dry brushing that little bit on there. Now the basing wise, do this however you want. You know, it's really down to personal preference. I always paint my bases black. I always have a black rim on them. Whatever I do on the top, I try and sometimes I do leave it the lighter colour of the base spray, but I do try and paint them black, because if anything knocks off or anything, the black looks more like a darker area of mud or something, rather than this bright white colour underneath if you do knock anything off. Now we've got the black on there. I was having a little look at the model, and I thought maybe the sword stood out a little bit too much. It's a bit too bright compared to the rest of him. So I grabbed a little bit of Null Oil and just whacked that straight over the top of all those areas I dry brushed. So the weapon, the binoculars and the sword, just to add that little bit more shading and darken down that silver a bit, because it was a little bit too bright for my liking. And while it stood out nicely, it's a bit too much. So it's dulled it down a little bit and made it look a little bit more burnished. So one tiny detail that we missed was just on the centre of the left hand breast there. You've got that little bit of a red light shining. And all I've done is grabbed a little bit of red paint, dotted that straight on. Job's good. Don't really need to do anything else with that there. Now, because we painted the base black, we can add in some of the any sort of basing material on, any muds or anything like that. Personally, I've gone for this Martian Iron Earth because it looks a little bit like Geonosis, and that's the sort of theme we've gone for with the Clone Wars miniatures from Star Wars Legion. It works really well, especially over the top of the black, because it cracks really nicely. The black areas within the cracks look quite dark and dirty, and it works really nicely, as you'll see in just a second. So once you've given that a time to dry, there you go. There's the model is complete. I think it looks absolutely brilliant. I really like how this grey works. Stands out really nicely. The basing looks fantastic as well, as you got the little cracks there. Looks, pretty much spot on to Geonosis. The sword and things, as it's a different colour, stand out really nice from the rest of the model. They don't blend in too much. So I think he looks absolutely brilliant, and I'm really pleased with how he's turned out. Especially with all those little brown bits on there. I think it just makes it pop really nicely. But thanks for watching, guys. I really do hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope it was a fairly simple one to follow. Make sure you do hit that subscribe button. We've got loads and loads of Star Wars Legion comment coming your way. Go and check out the other videos as well that we've done recently. Yesterday we had the ARC video drop, so make sure you do go and check that out. But thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.